Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our reading through the TANAK section. 23rd of August, 2023. We'll be picking back up where we left off last week, reading out of the book of Jeremiah. Okay, but I got a lot of current events for the night because of the things that have taken shape over the last couple of days. So with that being said, I want to introduce the Prophets of Awakening. You can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. There's a lot of information given in the videos, and they will connect dots for you and lead you into the truth of the whole scripture. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving through the videos and through the channel, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for those that feel the need to support the channel, you check out our Cash App at the bottom of the screen. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, which is the law that was given to Moses by the Lord of hosts. Okay, shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our reading through the Tanakh. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer. We're going to read the Psalms, and like I said earlier, we got a lot of current events because of things that have transpired over the last couple of days. And we're going to open up with a Q&A, and then we're going to our topic, which is reading from the book of Jeremiah, picking up from where we stopped last week. Okay, so this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belong unto thee. Therefore, we come before thee at this hour, seeking thy face and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servant David, Solomon, Samuel, and Hezekiah did, that we may walk before thee in truth and in righteousness and in rightness of heart. Give unto us, O Lord, an understanding heart, that we may discern between good and bad, for we know you possess the power to turn us. For we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, and to keep your commandments and your testimony and your statutes with all our heart and soul, to perform the words of this covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon our people. Hear our plea, hear and do, O Lord. Hide not thy face from us any longer, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be on you. Okay. So with that being said, read Psalms right quick. Okay. Okay. Let me read Psalms 145. It's a psalm of David, a praise by David. It's the Lord is gracious. It says, I will extol thee, my God, O King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day will I bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. One generation shall praise thy works to another, and shall declare thy mighty acts. I will speak of the glorious honor of thy majesty and thy wondrous works, and men shall speak of the might of thy terrible acts, and I will declare thy greatness. They shall abundantly utter the memory of thy great goodness, and shall sing of thy righteousness. The Lord is gracious and full of compassion, slow to anger, and great in mercy. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are over all his works. All thy works shall praise thee, O Lord, and thy saints shall bless thee. They shall speak of the glory of thy kingdom and talk of thy power, to make known to the sons of men his mighty acts and the glorious majesty of his kingdom. Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations. The Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raises up all those that be bowed down. The eyes of all wait upon thee, and thou givest them their meat in due season. Thou openest thine hand, and satisfiest the desires of every living thing. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, and holy in all his works. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desires of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry and will save them. The Lord preserveth all them that love him, but all the wicked shall be destroyed. My mouth shall speak the praise of the Lord, and let all flesh bless his holy name forever and ever. Okay, so that was Psalm 145. The Lord is gracious. Anybody got comments on that? Okay, so what I want to shine light on was it says verse 17, Psalm 145. The Lord is gracious in all his ways and holy in all his works. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, and to all that call upon him in truth. So that's in truth. So you can be seem like you got the truth or seem like you're good, but if you ain't dealing with him in the truth, then it's a problem. 19, he will fulfill the desires of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry and will save them. So that's specific. He will fulfill the desires of them that fear him. And also he will hear their cry and will save them. Okay. So with that being said, we'll go into some current events. So like I said, before I dive off into these current events, I want to shine light on some, I've been saying over and over again, pretty much for the last, what, 15 years or so, but about what's going to happen and how it's going to go down in Africa, and then we got to return there because it's where we came from, and how the events all of a sudden took a big turn over in Africa recently with the Niger thing. Okay, so what has happened since this BRICS conference started? Let's look at it right quick. Rita. Around us, but be very sure that you're circling back. I hope everyone is paying attention. I hope you are ready for this broadcast. We have a rather interesting topic we are going to be covering, a very important topic. I like to pay attention to what's going on all over this planet. It's not a good idea to only be involved in what's happening in your neck of the woods, okay? There are some very, very serious things happening, and if you're not paying attention, you just might miss it, right? Unfortunately, there is no end to the distractions that are out here. You know what I mean? No end to it.
That being said, if you pay attention to these things, be sure to circle back to what is really happening. Okay? We can't close our eyes to the things that are happening around us, but be very sure that you're circling back to reality, because there are some very serious things taking place. Now, I want to get into this topic, you all, because a lot of people don't pay attention to what's going on in Africa. For so long, they've been trained to think that Africa doesn't matter. This is something that has been done through the media, right? American media. Oh, they're just little children who we don't have to pay attention to. So many snide remarks have been made about so-called Black people, but something else is happening. They are experiencing a major revolution right now. They are saying no more. Have y'all noticed that? Africa is saying no more. You will no longer bully us. You will not mistreat us. And you will not continue to steal our resources. This is what's going on over in Africa. I hope you are paying attention. I hope you're paying attention. Now, this is exciting news. Of course, there will always be scoffers who will pretend like what's happening in Africa is just nothing. But America and the West are shaking in their boots. I'm not the only one saying this either. I've heard so many others talking about this. This is why I'm coming to you, because it kind of excites me a bit when I hear so-called white people or Europeans saying these same things, right? It excites me because that means they know what's going on, right? They know what's going on. So Africa just shocked the world with some of these bold moves that they've made. America and the West are finished. Finished. It is what it is. That time has come. And we are seeing this unfolding live in a living color. So I'm going to be showing something to you. I actually can't show you the video, but I'm going to go over some of the things that are being spoken of in the video. And like I said, it's exciting to me. Okay. Mariah in the chat says all of us must turn to the Most High and cry out with a loud voice. Okay. That's what he's waiting on us to do. I agree with that. So Africa is making some bold moves. Now, this is a map that was recently released, y'all. All of that you see in red, all of these countries in Africa that are in red, they have signed military agreements with Russia. Now, hear that. And it's been stated that some of those that are still in white are going to be signing as well. Now, the reason why they're signing military agreements with Russia is because Russia has observed the fact that America and the West have used bully tactics for a long time concerning Africa. They've used bully tactics. Okay. Carly in the chat says she don't want to cry, but oh my gosh, this is exciting. Praise the Most High. Absolutely, absolutely. So Russia has kind of looked at the fact that Africa's been bullied by the West, and the West has really had their way in Africa, but many are rising up. Niger rose up against the French, and they're raising up against all of these European nations and saying, we're tired of you stealing from us, taking our resources, our uranium, right? We're tired of it. Enough is enough. And they have literally thrown the West out. They've thrown them out. They said, you're out of here. No more. You can't do business here anymore. And they have been left with no other choice but to get out. No other choice but to get out. Now, I'm going to show you the video that I want you to see in just a moment, but they were saying that the West has already spent billions of dollars running a pipeline to get resources from Africa. They've piped it all all the way through so that they can get it to European nations. So basically, let me tell you what that looks like. This kind of stuff can burn you up when you really think about it. Okay, not in the natural sense, but it can really tick you off a bit. So they want to run pipelines from the natural resources of Africa, in the continent of Africa, run it straight through Africa and right on up into Europe. You said to yourself, you got a lot of nerve. You're gonna take our stuff, pipe it through our land into yours to benefit your people, while at the same time treating the people that you're stealing it from like trash. Well, as some of you have said in the chat, they cut it off. Africa made a decision. They cut it off. They said, you ain't getting nothing. I don't care how many billions of dollars you spent on your pipeline. It is now obsolete. You're not taking our resources anymore. And there is absolutely nothing they can do about it. Now I know that there are those who are prideful, who believes that they can just continue to do this and that the Most High is not going to intervene. Well, it seems like he's intervening now because this type of thing has been going on for a long time. And the problem is the West thinks that they can continue this and that no one can stop them. But it seems as though the Most High is putting that great boldness in them to say, look, we're tired of it. We're finished. We don't stand alone now. Now, what's amazing is this. I want you to understand something. The Most High, he don't need nobody, right? But he can use anybody. Let me say that again. The Most High doesn't need anybody, but he can use anybody, right? So
yeah. So on that note, just like he used Cyrus when he was in captivity in Babylon after 70 years, he brought Cyrus on the scene. Cyrus empowered us to go back. So it's nothing new under the sun, but we've been talking about how you got all these different African leaders raising up, they're getting emboldened and they're stepping up and talking. They telling these Western powers to get out and get on about their business. So we're gonna play this video right here because it's coming from somewhere. So let's look at this. Okay.
To build the Honda CR-V hybrid, we took everything you love about the CR-V.
Okay. Here we go.
Range of weaponry. According to President Putin has offered his partners a wide range of weaponry. According to TASS.com, he said, quote, we offer our partners a broad selection of advanced weapons of practically all types, including state-of-the-art control and Renaissance systems, high-precision weapons, and robotics. Putin said he's offering this to his partners, and we all know who his favorite partners, at least right now, are, and most of them are in Africa because of the current situation. A lot of countries turning their backs against Russia over the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now Putin has been, trying to really work hard to win over Africans and African leaders. So this is going to be directly impacting, especially Western African countries, because they're going through it. They will need weaponry to defend themselves from the extremists. So this is definitely going to piss off a lot of Western countries, but is going to excite, I would assume, African countries that have been struggling with defending their countries and their borders. Now they get to do that because he is offering them a wide range of weaponry. So I believe this is going to increase Russia's popularity in Africa. They're already winning the hearts of a lot of Africans.
More than 100 people participated on Saturday in Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic, CAR, in support of Russia's offensive against Ukraine. The demonstrators gathered at the foot of a statue inaugurated in late 2021 by President Faustin Archange Touadéra, representing Russian fighters protecting a woman and her children. We recognize a friend in suffering. When we were in crisis, it was Russia that came to our rescue to liberate the country. We saw France, which was there but did nothing, and France continues to bully us. We have to tell certain truths today. Russia is coming to liberate us. Now we are free, and we must support Russia at all costs until our last breath. Russia came to our country in the moment of crisis. Our country has suffered. Our country has been mistreated by the rebels, and that is why we came to support Russia.
So this offer is definitely being appreciated. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about.
Okay, so this is where it's coming from. Right here, Russia is giving them all these countries, all these high-tech weapons to defend themselves. So that's where it's coming from, which is the hand of the Most High behind it, because, like you said, that time it came for, that's his land. I was looking at another video. I'm quite sure somebody on here probably didn't seen it before, but the guy was talking about how they minimize on maps, world maps, actually how big Africa is. Africa is huge, and when you see that, and see it in the light that it really is, you know that that's the Most High's land, and that's where he dwelled at. And that's where we had to dwell at. But they didn't start all that, and all that stuff is coming out now. So here go another one. All this stuff just started to transpire all of a sudden.
For 8 decades, the world has been using the US dollar as international currency in trade, settling debts, and creating reserves. However, now this is going to change completely. You see, having the US dollar as a reserve currency binds countries to subjugate the US and its policy. And as China has now become a de facto superpower, the financial order has literally changed. Earlier, nobody took it seriously that it was over for the US dollar, despite reports of de-dollarization. But now the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has delivered a huge blow to the US and its dollar hegemony. Don't forget, the IMF is West's lapdog. But despite this, it could not handle the pressure countries are exerting. So what has happened? Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation Diary brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, especially China's development and growing power, you will definitely find our videos intriguing. In this video, we will explain how the IMF has shocked the world, especially the West and the US, opening doors to a new financial order with Chinese yuan being the king. Let's get started. Many experts believe the reason why the US is engaging in conflicts against China is to divert attention from a major fiasco. de-dollarization. It appears now that de-dollarization is not the only phenomenon going on. In other words, countries and their central banks are not only dumping the US dollars, rather, they're choosing an alternative as well. Earlier, the economists from the US ruled out any possibility of the US dollar being replaced. They presented the argument that since there is no currency that could take the place of the dollar, the USD will remain unrivaled. Now this has been changed, and the latest blow has been delivered by the very organization established to strengthen USD hegemony. The International Monetary Fund, often referred to as the IMF, is currently deeply involved in assessing whether the Chinese yuan could become a practical currency for nations to use as a reserve and debt payment currency. This begs the question, why is the IMF accepting the Chinese yuan such a big deal? Well, as we said, the IMF was apparently established for the so-called smooth financial order for the world. Yet secretly, it had different goals. But the most important of them is to ensure the USD never loses value and stays as an international currency. For that purpose, the IMF would use various tactics, including launching economic instability in various countries thinking to replace the USD. Let us break that down. The IMF is a worldwide organization, created with the good-looking goal of helping countries work together to manage complex financial matters and maintain stable exchange rates. But don't forget, that was just to seem legitimate. IMF's beginnings trace back to the important Bretton Woods Conference of 1944, where it was established. At its heart, the IMF's main duty revolves around keeping the global money system stable. But how? Well, by boosting USD in the financial order. But let's not look at that side of the story. Countries that are part of the IMF contribute money, which is then used to offer financial assistance to those in need. However, the IMF's responsibilities go beyond just providing money. It actively keeps an eye on economies and offers advice to its member nations, fostering economic growth and financial strength. Additionally, the IMF plays a key role in promoting good economic policies, reducing poverty, and enhancing international trade and cooperation. Earlier, the IMF had offered loans to Argentina, which has been lately going into economic decline. This loan was offered in USD, and the IMF expected to get paid back in the USD. It's because that's what has been going on for decades. But this time was different. Argentina chose to use the Chinese yuan to partially pay off its outstanding debts to the IMF, about 1.1 billion US dollars out of a total debt of 2.7 billion US dollars. This information was confirmed by the IMF spokesperson, Julie Kozak, who praised Argentina's skillful handling of its financial commitments. But deep inside, Argentina's move has rattled the very core of the IMF and the US. This was never expected, especially from the very countries needing loans from the IMF. The Chinese currency, commonly known as the RMB or renminbi, is one of a few currencies that countries can use to repay their debts to the IMF. Clearly, the Chinese yuan is gradually gaining importance in the global financial landscape. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue now. Already, yuan replaced the USD and became the world's most used currency for cross-border trade. In other words, this means that yuan has already replaced USD in being an international currency for trade. It turns out that Argentina did not use yuan without reasons. Since it is a Chinese currency, China promised Argentina to offer financial support to mitigate the ongoing financial crisis in the country. However, Argentina was not asked to sue yuan for trade or to settle debts in yuan. But Argentina knows China is a beneficial ally, more worth it than the US, the West, and IMF combined. Hence, it decided to do something and shock the entire financial world. And this experiment has proven successful now. The IMF has accepted that it will accept debt payments in yuan. Considering this, it's reasonable to think that more countries might start using the yuan for international financial transactions in the future. The financial world is undergoing a big transformation, and the evolving role of the yuan is an interesting story to follow. Shifting our focus to Argentina's own currency, the peso gives us a clearer view of these unfolding developments. Besides paying in yuan, an extra 1.7 billion US dollars was sent using special drawing rights by Argentina, increasing use of yuan currency further. This event marks an important step, being the first time Argentina used the freely available yuan obtained through trade with China to settle a substantial debt owed to a significant international institution like the IMF.
Okay, so this happened today. Okay, any comments on that? So we got some need to know information right here. Like I said, these people don't seem to get it. They're doing like the Pharaoh. They're digging a deeper, deeper hole for themselves.
There's no new funding to Uganda over anti-gay law and Uganda's defiant response. Let's get right into it. My name is Joe Tagwa from Authentic African, and today we have news from Uganda. So the World Bank has suspended all new funding to Uganda in response to the country's anti-LGBTQ law. Uganda's president has denounced the World Bank's decision to suspend the new funding and has said the country will renounce borrowing and not give in to the pressure from the foreign institution. Now, the World Bank has stated it will not consider new loans to Uganda until the efficacy of additional measures has been demonstrated to kind of roll back and reverse some of the effects of this law. What is the Anti-Homosexuality Act in Uganda? So it is a controversial law that imposes harsh penalties on individuals engaged in same-sex relationships. Here are the key provisions of the law. Number one, life imprisonment for homosexuality. The law calls for life imprisonment for anyone who convicted of homosexuality. This includes consensual same-sex relationships between two adults. Number two is the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality. So the law includes the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, which is defined as same-sex relations involving HIV-positive people, children, or other vulnerable individuals. Number three is imprisonment for attempted aggravated homosexuality. Anyone convicted of attempted aggravated homosexuality can be imprisoned for up to 14 years. And number four, harsher penalties for promoting homosexuality. The law decrees a 20-year sentence for promoting homosexuality. This provision targets individuals and organizations that advocate for LGBTQ rights or provide support to the LGBTQ community. Now, it's important to note that same-sex relations were already illegal in Uganda prior to the enhancement of this law. However, the Anti-Homosexuality Act introduced even harsher penalties and expanded the scope of criminalization. Now, as an organization, the World Bank has a right to do whatever they want with their money and with countries that they are in business with. And of course, all of us are supporting capitalism. We understand that that is the right of any private organization. Now, in order to understand why they have removed this funding from Uganda, let's understand a little bit about their stance. They have a decree and some stances on the LGBTQ agenda that they are supporting around the world. So number one, they have a thing called inclusive language and allyship. The World Bank recognizes the importance of signaling support for LGBTQ plus colleagues, both inside and outside the organization through inclusive language. So that's one of their major stances on the LGBTQ rights. The second is discrimination and violence. The World Bank acknowledges that LGBTQ and intersex people face widespread discrimination and violence in many countries, leading to exclusion and adverse impacts on their lives and communities. So these are two of the stances that they have on LGBTQ+. And three is the data gap development challenges. The World Bank highlights the lack of robust quantitative data and the development experiences of the outcomes of LGBTQI people, particularly in developing countries. This data gap poses a challenge for World Bank and other developmental institutions addressing what they call stigma and SOGI-based exclusion. And lastly, four is suspension of funding. So this is the piece that you are now seeing today in Uganda. So in response to the law, they've decided that they're going to suspend funding. So the World Bank has stated that the law contradicts its values and that it will not consider new loans until the efficacy of additional measures have been demonstrated. So this is the World Bank's stance on LGBTQ plus laws. And so you can see why they've decided to remove funding from Uganda. Now, this law is not only controversial with the World Bank, it's been controversial globally. But there are people on both sides, right? There are people in the African diaspora that support this law, and there are folks in the African diaspora who, of course, oppose this law. And so it's gotten widespread condemnation from Western governments, of course, human rights activists, international organizations. Critics argue that it violates universal human rights and contributes to discrimination, violence, and the marginalization of LGBTQ plus individuals in Uganda. Now, it's important to note that there are 32 countries in Africa with anti-LGBTQ plus laws already in place. So the question is whether or not the World Bank will continue to pull funding from the rest of these countries, or they will just keep it secluded to Uganda. Now, there are several implications of this funding being removed. And so I want to go through each one of them so you guys can understand how this can impact the country. So number one is economic impact. The suspension of new funding puts at risk the support of Uganda's plan for a transformation of its economy and becoming an upper middle class country by the year 2040. This could have significant economic implications for Uganda as the country relies heavily on foreign aid and support for development projects. Number two are political implications. The suspension of the new funding can have political implications for Uganda as it may strain the country's relationship with the World Bank and other institutions and international groups that align with the World Bank and its values. It could lead to other countries potentially pulling their funding or changing their relationship with Uganda after following suit with another prominent organization. So this is something that can actually have further and broader implications outside of just the relationship Uganda has with the World Bank. Now, of course.
Okay, any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay, so my question is, ain't this what brought the Lord of Hosts down during the time of Sodom and Gomorrah?
Oh, yes, sir.
I mean, and then, like I said, you can see the same scenario playing out when the Lord of Hosts showed up in Egypt. He come in and he bringing the pain. They getting worse and worse. These people, they within his laws. The laws they got is pertaining to the Torah against same-sex relationships. And now they trying to use the bank and money to counter that. So what do you think gonna happen? I mean, we know what happened with Egypt and everybody else that came up against the Most High's laws.
He punished them.
Say that again.
I said he punished them.
So it really works out well.
Yeah, it destroyed them. Yeah. Is there something? So that's not all. All this stuff just happened. So here go another one right here. This is the United States. Now they see everybody getting away from them to the point where they don't even want to deal with them financially or economically. They don't want the dollar, and they steady pushing. Steady pushing. So look at this. They just passed this bill.
You doing it? So pleased to be a contributor here on African Diaspora News. Thank you so much for sharing the broadcast so that other folks will be tapped into this truth that we're spreading here on this international network. Thank you so very much. Family, I don't know how many of you all have been aware of this early on, to be honest, during this Russia-Ukraine conflict, this proxy war that the United States of America is definitely funding by and through Ukraine and through its undue influence in NATO, that the U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives, the lower Congress, passed a bill to punish African nations.
Yeah.
Now, this act in the Senate, after that particular time, 2021, a year later, just last year in 2022, thankfully, an African organization, which I'm going to talk about very briefly, pushed back on that. But I want to talk about this briefly because I'm staying on top of the implications and the progress of this bill passing, because obviously after the United States, after the House of Representatives passes a bill, then it goes on to the Senate, and from the Senate it's signed into law if it's properly passed by both houses. It's signed into law by the president. So I'm staying on top of the progress of this, but I wanted to know if you all were aware that this has been taking place in the United States, the Countering Malign Russian Activities in Africa Act. That's what it's called.
What?
Being prepared in the U.S. Senate, which will, quote, direct the Secretary of State to develop and submit to Congress a strategy and implementation plan outlining the United States effort to counter the malign influence and activities of the Russian Federation and its proxies in Africa. Now, what I find interesting about this act that they include in this is that it says that the act will direct the United States government to, quote, regularly assess the scale and scope of the Russian Federation's influence and activities in Africa that undermine the United States objectives and interests, and determine how to address and counter such influence and activities effectively, including through appropriate United States foreign assistance programs, and hold accountable the Russian Federation and African governments and their officials who are complicit in aiding in such malign influence and activities. It also, watch this part, this is very important. It also directs the Secretary of State to, quote, develop and submit to the appropriate congressional committees a strategy and implementation plan outlining United States efforts to counter the malign influence and activities of the Russian Federation and its proxies in Africa. And that they're supposed to do that no later than 90 days after the date of that. Now, sometime a few months ago, at the time that you're viewing this year, because of this act that had already passed through the House of Representatives and moving its way to the Senate to progress, the SADC, which is the Southern African Development Community, shout out to them, they oppose the United States bill that countering malign Russian activities in Africa. It says that they're a 16-member group, the SADC is a 16-member group, chastise efforts by U.S. lawmakers to, quote unquote, punish African countries who try to help Russia bypass sanctions and restrictions imposed over its invasion of Ukraine. It goes on to talk a little bit more detail about this rejection and imposition of punishment by the United States against the African continent. It says the summit adopted the draft African Union Declaration on the USA proposed countering malign Russian activities in Africa Act and urged member states to communicate SADC's position and reaffirm the stance of non-alignment on conflicts outside the continent and the region at the multilateral forum. Now, family, it's very disturbing because this has been kept quiet in mainstream news.
That's right.
That this took place pretty early on in the conflict. So they knew Africa was not, many of the states in Africa were unwilling to jump in and get in the middle of this Russia-Ukraine conflict. So because of that, the United States does what she unfortunately does too often, and that is try to bully countries and pass an actual act in the United States to, in essence, punish them if they didn't take a particular stance and if they chose to work with Russia. And this, to me, seems to indicate that they are allowed to basically spy and to watch what's going on there. I reported some months back here on the network that one of our ambassadors had to apologize for inappropriately accusing them of working with Russia, supplying them with weapons. That's what it was. Found out that there was no substantial evidence or substantive evidence that would justify the Black U.S. ambassador making that allegation. But once again, that has not made mainstream news, which is why, thank God, for such platforms and networks like the African Diaspora News Channel and the Vicky Show here. Talk Black to Me, somebody. We're going to, of course, stay on top of this, the progress of this, and the fallout of this. But I wasn't sure if the family was aware that this had even been taking place over the past couple of years or so, and the fact that we would even dare do such a thing. How can we show respect to other countries when we bully them, when we don't take on, when folks that we consider to be an enemy, if the other countries don't see them to be an enemy and treat them accordingly, we turn around and impose punitive actions against them. In my opinion, that's an absolute no-no.
Okay, any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir, I did, right? So, I mean, we're living in some very interesting times right now because this is a trip. Just like she said, they're trying to bully. It's the continuation of trying to put fear there, right?
Right.
So it goes back to the video that you was playing earlier about, Russia and the weapons and, all of that, right? So this has been this bill, HR 7311 is the bill, right? That they're trying to get passed, which took place last year. Because I had to go do some research because I'm like, the West is a mess, right? So they really is trying to keep us in a place to believe as though Africa needs the West, but it's the other way around, right? The West needs Africa, right? So once Africa stands their ground and, like they said, no more, they go into doing dirty work like this, right? So we just have to stay alert because they already know what's going on. And it's also tied to the summit this year that they're having right now, right? The BRICS summit. It's also tied, to that too. So you gotta look at, they already know way before we know, right? So here it is a year or so later, and we're just hearing about HR 7311.
Right. Ain't that something?
That just tripped me out when I saw that video. I was like, wow, that's something else. Yeah.
Right. So that's a bill. We just saw what they was doing with the LGBT thing with the banks. So here they go right here. What the first thing I thought about when I saw this was, well, hell, the 2019 bill that came out, right? So you say that you're supposed to be, you all of a sudden worried about when we was brought here and when we leaving, and is it tied to the Bible? But then you turn around to the very country that you brought us from, you doing all this to them, same people. So that, to me, that's a dead calendar line. Okay, let that frame. So anyway, so then all of a sudden today, this dude came up dead. That's how these people operate.
Now to a developing story out of Russia. Leaders there say a plane has crashed that may have been carrying Yevgeny Prigozhin. He is the leader of the Wagner mercenary group that led the failed mutiny against the Kremlin.
So this guy right here, from the Wagner group, he's the one behind the empowerment of all these African leaders standing up now. Putin using him. He's the one on the ground, taking them all. It's like Putin, Lord of the hosts. He's giving them, he's the ones he's using to source all this stuff to them. And he's the one, while they standing up. All of a sudden, today, while the BRICS conference going on, this dude come up dead. Okay.
2 months ago. The private jet crashed just north of Moscow, reportedly killing all 10 people on board. But for now, it's still unclear if Prigozhin was actually on board. ABC's Patrick Reveal has the latest.
Just 2 months ago, the mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin challenged Russian President Vladimir Putin with a failed mutiny. Today, a private jet belonging to Prigozhin crashed in a village in the Tver region north of Moscow, killing all 10 passengers aboard. Russian officials have now confirmed Prigozhin was on the flight. The crash's cause is also unknown, but it's triggered a flood of speculation whether Prigozhin may have been targeted.
He's not the first person to gone against President Putin, and he's not the first person that ended up the same way.
They're trying to lay it on Putin.
In June, rocked Putin's rule.
So what is that? So they trying to lay it on Putin because all these mercenary soldiers is behind this dude. So, and they're the ones that's empowering Russia. So if they get them to thinking through this propaganda that Putin the one killed, then they go They go to chaos with those mercenary troops in Africa. So they doing they like I said, they're on their last leg. They're doing everything under the sun. And all this happening just so happened to be happening these 3 days of the BRICS summit.
Close ally of the Kremlin, leading thousands of fighters from his Wagner mercenary group out of Ukraine and marching on Moscow. But Prigozhin abruptly called off his forces after a surprise deal was brokered with Putin, who pardoned the mutineers, allowing them to go into exile in Belarus. Many at the time, though, doubting the Kremlin would remain so forgiving. But since then, Prigozhin had seemed to return to almost business as usual, repeatedly spotted in Russia. His most recent appearance just 2 days ago, in this video claiming to be in Africa, where Wagner has been growing in influence. A White House spokesperson today saying it's aware of the reports of the crash, adding if it's confirmed, no one should be surprised. Patrick,
that's how they operate, man. Like I said, the same way, these are the same clowns that they started trying to deal with reparations. Okay? Like I said before, you just passed a bill like that you supposed to be so aware of the 400-year prophecy. You passed a bill 1619 to 2019, but you turn around, you pass these kind of bills. Come on, man. Yeah. So, any comments?
I saw that too, and I was going to ask you about that video because I was a little confused on that because, like you said, I thought that he was the man that was boots on ground for Putin, right? But then I had watched 2 or 3 little clips on it, and then the last one I watched, that's what they were saying, that Putin was behind it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. So I was a little confused on that video. So yeah, I'm glad you covered that because I was going to ask you about that.
Right. They're trying to bring this dissension in between the Russians and them forces that's on the ground over there in Africa. Like I said, them forces and the video I just played, they the ones bringing all them weapons, all that new technology, robotics and all that stuff to those African countries, fighter jets and all that. That's why these African countries in power. That's why they talking shit. And so they kind of counter it. And like I said, trying to kill 2 birds at one time, doing it at the same time that this BRICS conference going on. They're trying to kill the popularity on that and the vibe that's coming from it. Oh yeah. So so we're at Q&A now. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything that they want to talk about before we go into? We're gonna start reading out of the book of pick up in Jeremiah. I'll read a few chapters. Any questions, comments about anything? So this is one of the side effects of what they're trying to do right here. Play this and then we'll go into the class.
It's your favorite attorney, Attorney Ali Booker, and I want to discuss digital currency. What's up with it? What is it? Who's using it? Okay? Guys, I know a lot of us understand digital currency because you get payment or Cash App. Cash App is a good understanding of digital currency. You can use the Cash App and then you can change that to Bitcoin. Now you've got your digital currency. The reason that digital currency is making a big boom is because it exceeds governmental restrictions as far as coming outside of the wall. Okay? So when I say that, I say this. Russia is now moving to digital currency. Putin signed it into law July the 25th. He, along with a few African nations, African diaspora, let's go, African nations, come on, Asian nations, and now they are working on South American nations are coming together, and they're making a move to digital currency.
That's what this about.
It allows their sanctions not to work. Okay, digital currency can be used by anybody, correct? Inside of the country and out, correct? And what it does is it takes the money from being centralized in the United States to being on a world market. Once you have digital currency, you're in the world market, okay? And if people can buy and sell with your digital currency, private citizens of different countries, then guess what? The sanctions that these countries are putting on you will not work. The United States has long been, you know, an imperialistic, we already know, everybody's imperialist. Who's imperialist with us? We like to go conquer other countries and take it for ourselves. That's what we do. That's what people have been doing from the beginning of time. But the issue is when you start to hog the money, you control the world with the money and the American dollar, and they want reprieve, they want to be able to get away from these restrictions, they got to figure out how to do it. And with the American dollar being so, although it's not worth much, it has a lot of power behind it. You need to remove that power and authority from the United States. You put everybody on a digital currency. That's what you do. And what you do is you stop allowing dollars and paper money to be used. As long as somebody has paper money in their hands, you cannot control them. You cannot control what they do. But if it is a digital currency, you can control how much they can spend. You can make it zero if you want. I know y'all heard the story about Usain Bolt woke up to $0 in his bank account. I want to say he was with Bank of America or Wells Fargo, and they, in my opinion, professionally, they pulled the trigger on him to see how it would work and to see what type of scare it would, you know, it would incite. And he's not in America, and they messed with his money. Okay, I've not heard anything about it after the fact, so I'm sure he got it back. But they were testing it to see how they could infiltrate the banks using digital means, and they did it. Okay, so it's good and it's bad, because when you move to digital currency, which we all will, it will be very soon illegal to have a dollar bill in your pocket. And I've been saying this since the beginning of the year, and people are looking at me crazy. But if you pay attention, they're doing away with cash. They're trying to get rid of all of the paper dollars. That is the goal of the United States government, is to move digital with the rest of the world. Because if they don't move digital, then we're going to have a problem. Our paper dollar isn't going to be worth crap. Nobody's going to want to accept it, and we won't have any money that's worth anything. So they're getting ready to force us to go digital as well without scaring us or inciting a riot, okay? By making paper money less available. If you go to a lot of the bars around clubs, a lot of them are moving to cash only. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. They're aware. And these people know that pretty soon cash money is going to be illegal, and they're trying to get as much of it as they can right now. Okay? Because cash is going to be black market soon. Okay? And the issue is, if all your money is in a bank or all your money is digital, what you have no control. They can press with the press of a button, they'll make you poor. You don't do something they say, you're broke. We need to pay attention to that. Okay? That goes along with this new world order type thing that people have been speaking about for years. That's why they say new world order. It's not going to be United States running things anymore. The world is going to be able to work outside of the world. And I need you all to pay attention to the fact that they are moving to a universal identification system. We have social security numbers. We have IDs from different states. But there's nothing on a universal level for anybody that's doing business with us, with these Bitcoins, with this digital currency, to know that A, we're not artificial intelligence and we're a real individual on the other side of the computer. And B, we truly exist. We have blood running through our veins. We're a real person. And with so much AI, and you all need to be paying attention to what Bill Advise is telling you all, with respect to AI, it is taking over. And that is why they will need digital currency as well. We will all at some point have some sort of international identifying number that's going to link to our money, okay, that's digital, that's going to link to us, and it's going to have nothing to do with the United States. It's going to be a world thing. Okay?
Okay. Any comments on that?
Shalom, everyone. She is speaking. You know, it's a lot of information out there on the digital currency, right? So, you know, you can just research it by, you know, looking up, you know, bills concerning, you know, central bank, digital currency, whatever. All kind of information is going to come up, right? And I always said this, Brother Leonard, the gentleman that owned Cash App, right? That he got killed here earlier this year, right?
Okay.
Something behind that's going to come out with that too, because like she said, Bitcoin is tied to the Cash App, right? So again, in 2021, 2020, when I was traveling for the government, when we were going to places like Maryland and Virginia, different places like that, they was already dealing with that. They wasn't even taking coins, you know, it was either dollar bills or Bitcoin or something like that. They was already dealing with that, right? So we don't even pay attention when we go into stores now. And I'm saying this because I want you guys to pay attention now. They have Bitcoin machines in the stores, and the teller machines say not working or whatever, unavailable or whatever. These are things that we don't pay attention to. I do. I don't know about anybody else because of all the information that I research and that you share. I'm just so much more alert than I used to be. Right. So when you go into grocery stores or a small convenience store, especially the ones that are owned by the Indians and the Arabs, right? They have the Bitcoin machines in there now. Nobody's paying attention to that. And like you said, nobody's talking about it, and it's going to slip up on us before we know it.
Exactly. It's all getting in place. Right. And you can see the birth pains.
Yes, sir. But we walking around every day as though it is normal and taking advantage of all of this information that you're sharing with us. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfolding so fast. It is really time to get yourself wrapped up into this everyday news. And when I hear people say, I don't watch TV, I don't watch the news, I don't okay. You better, because it's out there and it's strong.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? Yeah, so before I start reading out the book of Jeremiah, I want to jump back to last night. I was dealing with the testament of Abraham that was in the 54 book Apocrypha, complete 54 book Apocrypha, and I was showing how what was in that book was also making known and making seeming things that we've learned about Lord of Hosts and how they trick certain things off. And so I got it right here. Let me show you this right quick. I got this the Apocalypse of Abraham, right? This is the book I got. This is the Apocalypse of Abraham. And so it was what I was reading out of the other book was the Testament of Abraham. But I want to show you something. What I was just talking about how they've been tricked off this 400 years. They trying to, what happened to Abraham in Genesis 15, they trying to put it off to, he's prophesying about today. So let me read this. It's only about a couple of paragraphs. It says, this the Apocalypse of Abraham, right? The book opens with a description of Abraham's activity as a maker of and seller of idols. His father Terah being manufacturer of idols. So we know that from the book of Jasher. Terah was in the business of making idols for the kingdom of Babylon that Nimrod was running. Say his doubts as to justifiable character of an idol worshiper are aroused especially by an accident that befell the stone image called Meruma, and by a similar accident that happened to 5 other gods, by which they were broken in pieces. Okay, reflecting on this, he is led to protest to his father against the unreality of asking a blessing from such helpless images, thereby arousing Terah's anger. So then it says he is led to test further the powers of the idols by placing a wooden god, Barasak, before the fire and telling the idol to see that the fire must be allowed to die down during his absence. Or returning, he finds Barashak falling backwards and horribly burnt. And he again protests to his father against the futility of such worship, sarcastically contrasting the relative merits of gold, silver, and wooden idols. He then proceeds to show that the elements of fire, water, earth, and the heavenly bodies, the sun, moon, and the stars, are more worthy of honor than the idols. And yet, as each is subjected to some similar force, they can none of them claim to be God. While he was yet speaking, his father's voice came from heaven, bidding him to leave. Check it out. So you know the story in Joshua. Abraham destroyed his father's idols, and then got into a big old argument with him, and then Abraham fled. But right here in this apocalypse, Abraham is telling you that the reason why he left was the Lord of hosts called him. So it says right here, while he was just speaking in his father's voice, speaking to his father, a voice came from heaven, bidding him to leave his father's house. So the Lord of hosts called him, the reason he left, right? So here we go. And he had scarcely left the house when fire descended and consumed all within it, right? Go back to Sodom and Gomorrah. So then it says, the apocalyptic part opens with a divine command. Check it out. Divine command to Abraham to prepare a sacrifice with a view of receiving a divine revelation concerning the future. So this not the sacrifice when he sacrificed Isaac. This is sacrifice in Genesis 15. Let me read it. Because it's big. So this is the sacrifice in Genesis 15. Let's go there right quick. So you go to Genesis 15. We're going to put this 400 years in America to rest. So it says in chapter 15, verse 7, and he said to him, the Lord said to him, I am the Lord of the host, that brought thee up out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give thee this land to inherit. And he said, Abraham said, Lord God, whereby shall I know to inherit it? And he said unto him, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So this is the sacrifice, not the one with Isaac. So this is the sacrifice he's talking about right here in the Apocalypse of Abraham. And he took them unto him all these, divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds he divided not. So again, verse 7. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. Right? So this is sacrifice right here. So let's look at it. And I just read, he says, when he told him to go make this sacrifice so he can tell them what's going to happen in the future. So that's what the 400 years come in there. But they're saying that it's about America, right? So let's look at it. Go back over here to where I was at. So it says, and the apocalyptic part opens with a divine command. The Lord of hosts tell Abraham to prepare a sacrifice, right? The sacrifice I just read in Genesis 8:15. Sacrifice with a view to receiving a divine revelation concerning the future. That's the 400 years, right? Abraham terrified at the experience. and he is confronted by the angel. Oh, this is where I got to go do some research on. I'm gonna check this out. The angel Joel. They're saying this angel named Joel, who encourages him and explains his commission to be with Abraham and to act as a celestial guide. Now here we go. Remember, the birds try to come, and when Abraham had laid the pieces out of the animals, he had divided them for the sacrifice. Birds came down, right, and Abraham drove them off. It says, under the direction of the angel, he proceeds to Horeb, the mount of God, in a 40 days journey, a journey of 40 days. And there, with the help of Joel, he accomplished the sacrifice. Check it out. This is the birds right here. At this point, Aziel, right, all the way back to Enoch, the fallen angel and seducer of mankind, intervened in an attempt to dissuade Abraham from his purpose. Here you go. In the form of unclean birds, he flies down upon the carcasses. So these was fallen angels disguised as birds. The reason Abraham was trying to drive them off. It says, in the form of unclean birds, he flies down upon the carcasses, right, and tries to induce Abraham to leave the holy place. But in vain, Joel denounces the evil spirits, bidding him to depart, and telling them that the heavenly garments which he was formerly has been set aside for Abraham. So this is my point. Go back up, and then we can, you can let it frame. It says, under the direction of, we'll uncover this lie. So they saying this angel name was Joel, J-A, if you want to search him out, J-A-O-E-L, right? So it says, Joel, who encourages him and explains his commission to be with Abraham and act as his celestial guide. Now here you go. Under the direction of the angel, he proceeds to Horeb, the mount of God. So where you remember seeing that at? Let's go to Genesis. This is how we know this was the prophecy of Egypt, right? So, I mean, Exodus chapter 3. Yeah, it's big. Exodus chapter 3 says, chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses kept a flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, came to the mountain of God, even Horeb, the same mountain Abraham was on when he got the prophecy. That's why that's so special, because they took the beginnings out of it, where you don't understand that. So we know that was Michael, because I tell you right here. It says, in the mountain of God, even the Horeb, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in the flame of fire. That's the Lord of hosts. So anyway, all Moses is doing is returning. Moses ended up being, he's a part of the prophecy that was in Genesis 18, Genesis 15. Moses is part of, he's part of the fulfillment of it. So when Moses drove out of Egypt, he ended up at the same mountain that Abraham was on, where he got the prophecy. See that? So let's look at it. Now Moses kept a flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, came to the mountain of God, even Horeb. So it took the steam and the knowledge and the understanding out of it, because you don't know the part about over here. Over here in Apocalypse of Abraham, it says, and the angel encouraged him and explained his commission to be with Abraham and the acts of his celestial guide, acted as his celestial guide. Under the direction of the angel, he proceeded to Horeb, to the Mount of God. So all that happened was Abraham got all these revelations in the holy place. Notice what Aziel doing. It says, and Aziel, the fallen angel and seducer. This happened to us on a daily basis. We ain't understanding what's going on though. It says, at this point, Aziel, the fallen archangel and seducer of mankind, intervened and attempts to dissuade Abraham from his purpose. So in the form of an unclean bird, he flies down upon the carcasses and tries to induce Abraham to leave the holy place. So we trying to, like I was saying before, I said it over. So we trying to get you in the right place. So you're supposed to be, you're supposed to be expecting some wicked ass shit to come to try to get you out the holy place. So Abraham on Mount Horeb, when he did the sacrifice, Azazel came trying to run him off from the holy place. Now we see Genesis in Exodus chapter 3, that's where Abraham showed up. I mean, Moses showed up at on the same mountain. So they ain't got nothing whatsoever to do with America. He prophesied to him about Egypt. For the year, how many years it is was in Egypt. And then here come Moses. And then what did he do? Moses goes to that same place, and the same angel sent him back to Egypt to perform what he had told Abraham, to bring the people out. They're gonna come out with great substance. And they're gonna get rid of the Horites, the Amorites. We see all that in the book of Joshua. Well, you couldn't get no understanding on it because you ain't understanding this part. They took this out. All you know is Moses showed up on the Mount Horeb. And then in Genesis 15, they don't tell you where Abraham was at when he made the sacrifices. Okay? Yeah. Any questions? Comments? Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, like I said before, I'm going to read a couple chapters out of Jeremiah from, I started last week reading out of Jeremiah. So I'm going to try to, each week, read a little bit out of Jeremiah and try to finish this book of Jeremiah. I'm trying to figure out where I stopped at. I started Jeremiah chapter 4. It says, if thou wilt return, O Israel, saith the Lord, return unto me, and if thou wilt put away thine abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove, and thou shalt swear, the Lord liveth, in truth and in judgment and in righteousness, and the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall they glory. Thus saith the Lord to the men of Judah and to Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourselves to the Lord and take away the foreskin of your heart, ye men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Right? Then it says, verse 5, declare ye Judah, publish it in Jerusalem, and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land, cry together, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, and let us go into the defense cities. Set up the standard toward Zion. Retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. The lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without inhabitants. For thus gird ye with sackcloth, lamentate and howl, for the fierce anger of the Lord is not turned back from us. And it shall come to pass at that day, says the Lord, that the heart of the king shall perish, and the heart of the princes and the priests shall be astonished, and the prophets shall wonder. Then said Lord God, surely thou hast greatly deceived this people and Jerusalem, saying, ye shall have peace, whereas the sword reaches unto the soul. At that time shall it be said to this people and to Jerusalem, a dry wind of the high places in the wilderness toward the daughter of my people, not to fan nor to cleanse. Even a full wind from those places shall come unto me. Now also will I give sentence against them. Behold, he shall come up as a cloud, and his chariot shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled. O Jerusalem, wash thine heart from wickedness, that thou mayest be saved. How long shall thy vain thoughts lodge within thee? For a voice declares from Dan, and publishes affliction from the Mount Ephraim. Make ye mention to the nations, behold, publish against Jerusalem, that watchers come from the far country, and give out their voices against the city of Judah. As keepers of the field are they against her round about, because she hath been rebellious against me, said the Lord. Thy way and thy doings have procured these things unto thee. This is thy wickedness, because it is bitter, because it reaches unto thine heart. My bowels, I am pained in my very heart. My heart maketh a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace, because thou hast heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet, the alarm of war. Destruction upon destruction is cried, for the whole land is spoiled. Suddenly are my tents spoiled, and my curtains in a moment. How long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and dark, and the heavens, and they had no light. And behold, the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heaven were fled. And I beheld, and lo, the fruitful places was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord, and by his fierce anger. For thus said the Lord, okay, for thus have the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate. Yea, yet will I not make a full end. For this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above be blackness, because I have spoken it, I have prepared it, and I will not repent, neither will I turn back from it. The whole city shall flee from the noise of the horsemen and the bowmen. They shall go into the thickets and climb up upon the rocks. Every city shall be forsaken, and not a man dwelleth therein. And when thou art spoiled, what wilt thou do? Though thou clothe thyself with crimson, and though thou deckest thee with ornaments of gold, though thou rentest thy face with paintings in the vein, shall thou make thyself fair. Thy lovers will despise thee, they will seek thy life. For I have heard a voice, as a woman in travail, in the anguish, as her that bringeth forth her first child, the voice of the daughter of Zion, that bewaileth herself, that spreadeth her hands, saying, woe is me now, for my soul is weary because of the murderers. So, that was chapter 4. When you understand what's going on, Jeremiah was brought on the scene to warn the people about Nebuchadnezzar coming, and because of their sins, he brought Nebuchadnezzar. That's what Jeremiah's purpose is. Just like Abraham was warning the people about the captivity in Egypt. That's who came from the north, Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Any comments on chapter 4? I'm gonna read one more chapter, chapter 5 of Jeremiah. Okay. No comments or questions? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna read chapter 5. So it says, run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if ye can find a man, if there be any that execute judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it. And though they Remember what he did with Abraham about the 10 men, the 20 men? Right? It says, though thou say, the Lord liveth, surely they swear falsely. O Lord, art not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not grieved. Thou hast consumed them, but they were not refused to receive correction. They have made their faces harder than a rock, and they have refused to return. That's what we see the Gentile doing right now. Therefore I said, surely these are poor, they are foolish, for they know not the way of the Lord, nor the judgment of their God. I will get me unto the great men, and will speak unto them, for they have known the way of the Lord, and the judgment of their God. But these have altogether broken the yoke and burst the bounds. Wherefore a lion out of the forest shall slay them, and a wolf of the evening shall spoil them, and a leopard shall watch over their cities. Every one that goeth out thence shall be torn in pieces, because their transgressions are many, and their backsliding are increased. How shall I pardon thee for this? The children have forsaken me, and sworn by them that are no gods. When I had fed them to the full, they then committed adultery, and assembled themselves by troops in the harlot houses. They were as fed horses in the morning, everyone nighed after his neighbor's wife. Shall I not visit for these things, said the Lord, and shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? Go ye up upon your walls and destroy, but make not the full end. Take away her battlements, for they are not the Lord. For the house of Israel and the house of Judah have dealt very treacherously against me, says the Lord. They have belied the Lord and said, it is not he, neither shall evil come up upon us, neither shall we see sword nor famine, and the prophets shall become wind, and the word is not in them. Thus shall it be done unto them. Wherefore thus says the Lord God of hosts, because ye speak these words, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. Lo, I will bring a nation upon them from afar. O house of Israel, says the Lord, it is a mighty nation, it is an ancient nation, a nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understandest what they say. Their quiver is as an open sepulchre. They are almighty men, and they shall eat up thy harvest and thy bread, which thy sons and thy daughters shall eat. Daughters should eat. They shall eat up the flocks and thy herds, and they shall eat up thy vines and thy fig trees. They shall impoverish thy fenced cities, wherein thou trusted with the sword. Nevertheless, in those days, said the Lord, I will not make a full end with you. And it shall come to pass when ye shall say, wherefore doeth the Lord our God all these things unto us? Then shall thou answer them, like as ye have forsaken me, and served strange gods in your land, so shall ye serve strangers in a land that is not yours. Declare this in the house of Jacob, publish it in Judah, saying, hear now this, O foolish people, without understanding, which have eyes and see not, and which have ears and hear not. Fear ye not me, saith the Lord. Will ye not tremble in my presence, which have placed the sand or the bounds of the sea by perpetual decree, that it cannot pass it, though the waves thereof toss themselves, yet can they not prevail. Though they roar, yet they cannot pass over it. But this people have a revolting and a rebellious heart. They are revolted and gone. Neither say they in their hearts, let us now fear the Lord our God, that giveth rain both to the former and the latter in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. Your iniquities have turned away these things, and your sins have withholden good things from you. For among my people are found wicked men, They lay wait as he that setteth snares, and they set a trap. They catch me as a cage is full of birds, so are they houses full of deceit. Therefore they are become great and wax rich. They are waxing fat. They shine, yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. Shall I not visit for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? A wonderful and horrible thing is committed in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means. And my people love to have it so. And what will ye do in the end thereof? Okay, so that was, like I said, the setting is Jeremiah. The Lord came and got Jeremiah to warn the nation of Israel, the southern kingdom, for their sins, and that he was coming. That's what's meant by the day of visitation. When he comes to visit you or visit the nation of Israel because of their sins. He's coming to bring judgment. So, like I was saying, when you understand who the suffering servant is in Isaiah 53, look at the last two verses in Jeremiah 5. It says, it identifies who it is, suffering servant. It says, a wonderful and horrible thing is committed in the land. So what is that? The prophets, see that? Prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means. And my people love it so. And what will ye do in the end there? So that's what that's their job is. He took them from among the nations of Israel and brought them to himself in the temple. They're responsible for bringing judgment. But we see right here, they wasn't doing that. So he punished them.
What happened to Brother Leonard?
I don't know. I thought it was my internet.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to reconnect back in.
Okay.
D-Ray, do you know much about Bitcoin?
Not that much. I tried to read a little bit on it, but it's like it's hard for me to actually grasp really, the concept of it, the idea.
Right. Yeah, it can be confusing. Yeah. Cheryl, you know anything about Bitcoin? Anybody else on here know about Bitcoin or researching any information on it?
Shalom. I don't really know about it. I know they showed it on TikTok and how it's been going up and down. Um, that a lot of other countries have, went into it. They said that Russia has some bitcoins. It's a lot of senators and other head people are getting it. It is also, like they said, on Cash App. You can invest in it through there. There's there's a lot of schemes on it too.
It
So
is. You
yeah,
got to be careful with that.
and then that investment, um, when it first started, they wanted to. You remember they wanted to knock it down and said it wasn't true, it wasn't real, and everything. But when others got in it that had money, they stopped spreading that. So yeah, I haven't dabbled in it or actually seen the benefits of having it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've really been trying to do some research on it and understand it a whole lot more because I really do think that it's going to come a time to where that's all we're going to have access to. So I'm really trying to, learn about it.
And by you saying that, sister, I see that. Remember, we were talking about gold, having gold, and I believe, being that they're talking about it now, it is a form of gold. Now, I was, really thinking like, how can everybody get gold? And said gold, you need to invest in gold, but Bitcoin is a form of gold. Or I'm asking a question on that one. Do y'all think Bitcoin is a form of gold? And when they're saying you have to have gold um, in the latter days, because the dollar bill is not going to be worth anything?
Um, Not quite like sure on that. You know what I'm saying? Because actually, it's and I have not researched this either. Like I said, when you go in the stores, right, and you see the machines there, that is what I'm looking into because then I want to get my hands on it to see what it actually is.
Okay, I'm back. So we're just gonna close it out right here. I guess something going on in the area with the internet. Just mine just clicked off. It just came back on. So we just what y'all was talking about.
Talking about the Bitcoin.
Oh, okay, yeah. Y'all finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So I see everybody tomorrow. We got the women's line tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Men coming in through the YouTube. So I'll see everybody tomorrow. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom. Shalom, shalom.
All right, shalom, everyone.
Shalom.